The Cursed Wedding Ring. Hello friends, welcome to the Horror Ghost Stories. The story begins. The rain poured in relentless sheets, a fitting backdrop to the day Lucas had always feared. After years of scouring antique shops, flea markets, and estate sales, he had finally unearthed the perfect ring for Sophia. Its delicate gold band twisted into intricate vines, crowned with a blood-red ruby. The jeweler had assured him it was a one-of-a-kind piece, though she had hesitated before selling it. Her warning echoed faintly in his mind, old things carry stories, some better left untold. Lucas had dismissed her words as an old woman's superstition, but now, as he knelt before Sophia in their favorite secluded park, a shiver ran down his spine. He shook it off, presenting the ring with a hopeful smile. Sophia gasped, her hands trembling as she accepted his proposal. She slid the ring onto her finger, and for a moment, it seemed as if the world itself held its breath. That night, Lucas awoke to Sophia's whisper. She stood at the bedroom window, silhouetted by the moonlight. Her voice was low, distant. "Do you hear it?" she asked without turning. Lucas strained his ears but heard nothing beyond the wind. "Hear what?" She turned to him, her eyes glinting with an unnatural sheen. "The singing. It's beautiful." The next morning, Sophia seemed herself again, laughing off her strange behavior as a vivid dream. But Lucas noticed subtle changes. She spoke in her sleep, murmuring in a language he didn't recognize. Shadows seemed to cling to her longer than they should, and her once warm hands grew cold, even in the summer sun. A week later, their home descended into chaos. Mirrors shattered without cause. The scent of decayed roses permeated the air, no matter how much Lucas cleaned. Most disturbing of all, Sophia began to disappear for hours at a time, returning with no memory of where she had been. Desperate, Lucas returned to the jeweler, clutching the receipt. The old woman's face paled when he mentioned the ring. "You should never have given it to her," she whispered. "That ring belonged to a bride betrayed on her wedding night." She cursed it with her dying breath, vowing that no union sealed with it would ever know peace. Lucas's stomach churned. "How do I break the curse?" The jeweler's eyes darkened. "The ring must be returned to where its story began, the abandoned chapel in the woods. But beware, it will fight to stay with her." That night, Lucas confronted Sophia. She recoiled as he explained the curse, her voice rising in defense of the ring. "It's mine. You can't take it from me." Her eyes, now glowing faintly red, locked onto his. Lucas reached for her hand, but the moment he touched the ring, a searing pain shot through him. He yanked his hand back to find his palm blistered. Sophia laughed, a sound not her own, and fled into the night. Heart pounding, Lucas chased her into the woods. The storm from their engagement night had returned, lightning splitting the sky. He found her at the threshold of the chapel, the ring's ruby pulsing like a heartbeat. "Sophia, please," he shouted over the wind. "You have to let it go." Her voice was a guttural snarl. "It won't let me." Summoning every ounce of his courage, Lucas lunged. The moment his fingers closed around hers, the world exploded in light. A deafening scream tore through the air as the ruby shattered. Sophia collapsed, the ring disintegrating into ash. Lucas cradled her trembling form, relief flooding him as her eyes returned to their familiar warmth. The storm dissipated, leaving the chapel eerily quiet. They left the cursed ruins behind, vowing never to speak of the ring again. Yet, as they walked away, Lucas couldn't shake the feeling of unseen eyes watching, and the faintest whisper of a melody trailing after them. Days turned into weeks, and though life seemed to return to normal, Lucas noticed Sophia's moments of quiet unease. She paused mid-sentence, her gaze drifting as though she heard something far away. Lucas, too, began experiencing odd occurrences, items shifting in the house, shadows darting in his peripheral vision. One evening, he found Sophia staring at her bare finger, tears streaming down her face. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice gentle. "I feel empty," she whispered. "As if something's missing." Lucas held her close, reassuring her that everything was fine. But deep down, he feared the curse had left a scar deeper than they could see. The whispers in the house grew louder, and one night, Lucas woke to find Sophia missing again. Panicking, he searched everywhere, eventually finding her in the woods near the chapel. She stood motionless, her face pale, her hands reaching out as if to grasp something invisible. When he called her name, she turned, and for a fleeting moment, her eyes glowed crimson. "It's calling me," she said, her voice distant. Lucas knew they couldn't escape the ring's legacy so easily. Desperation drove him to seek help from an occult expert. The man, a grim-faced historian, revealed that the curse could not truly be broken. "It's bound to her soul now," he explained. "You can try to suppress it, but it will always seek to reclaim what it has lost." Determined, Lucas followed the historian's advice and performed a binding ritual designed to contain the curse's influence. The ritual involved burying what remained of the ring's ash beneath the chapel's altar and sealing it with sacred markings. As they completed the ritual, a final, anguished scream echoed through the chapel, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. Sophia collapsed into Lucas's arms, exhausted but seemingly free. They left the woods, their bond stronger for having faced the darkness together. But late at night, when the world was silent, Lucas sometimes heard faint whispers in the wind, a reminder that some stories never truly end. Months passed, and the couple began to rebuild their lives. Yet, subtle changes lingered in Sophia. Her laughter was softer, her smiles rarer. On their anniversary, Lucas planned a small celebration to lift their spirits. He prepared dinner and lit candles, determined to bring warmth back into their home. As they sat down, Sophia reached for his hand, her touch colder than ever. "Thank you, Lucas," she said, her voice sincere but heavy. "For everything." The candles flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Lucas squeezed her hand, trying to push away the unease. "We're stronger together," he said firmly. But his words faltered as he noticed her gaze fixed on something behind him. Turning, he saw nothing but darkness. Yet Sophia's grip tightened, her eyes wide. "It's here," she whispered. The room grew colder, the shadows deepening. A faint, melodic hum filled the air, a haunting echo of the song Sophia had once claimed to hear. Lucas rose, his heart pounding. "Stay behind me," he ordered, though he wasn't sure what he could do. From the corner of the room, the darkness seemed to condense, forming a vague shape. It was neither human nor fully formed, but its presence was undeniable. A pair of crimson orbs glowed faintly where eyes should have been. "Why can't you leave us alone?" Lucas shouted, his voice trembling. The entity seemed to shudder, its form flickering like a dying flame. Then, it spoke, its voice a chorus of anguish and fury. "You broke the bond, but you cannot erase what I am. I am part of her now. Forever." Sophia stepped forward, her eyes wet with tears. "I don't want you. Leave me alone." The entity surged forward, and Lucas acted on instinct, grabbing a candle and thrusting it toward the shadow. The flame seemed to burn brighter, forcing the entity to recoil with a screech. "Go back to where you came from," Lucas shouted, his voice steadying. The entity hesitated, its form wavering. Sophia joined Lucas, her voice steady despite her fear. "You don't control me anymore. I'm free." With their combined defiance, the entity dissolved into the air, leaving behind a chilling silence. The candles steadied, their warm light banishing the lingering shadows. Sophia fell into Lucas's arms, sobbing. "It's over," she whispered, though neither truly believed it. They held each other tightly, vowing to face whatever came next together. And as they extinguished the candles and climbed into bed, the wind outside carried a faint melody, a reminder that the past, no matter how distant, never truly lets go. But even as they tried to move forward, the remnants of the curse seemed to linger in unexpected ways. Plants in the house began wilting inexplicably, no matter how much care they received. The scent of roses, both sweet and rotten, would occasionally fill the air. Lucas found himself waking up at odd hours, his dreams plagued by vivid images of the chapel, of the glowing ruby, and of Sophia standing at the edge of the woods, calling his name. One evening, as Lucas returned home late from work, he found the house eerily silent. The lights flickered, and the air felt heavy with an unspoken presence. Calling out for Sophia, he heard a faint reply from the backyard. He rushed out to find her standing beneath the old oak tree, staring at the moonlit sky. "Sophia," he said softly, stepping closer. She turned to him slowly, her face pale, her eyes reflecting a sorrow he couldn't comprehend. "It's not over," she whispered. "It will never be over." Before he could respond, the wind picked up, carrying with it a haunting melody that sent chills down his spine. Sophia's hand drifted to her neck, where a faint red mark had appeared, glowing faintly like the cursed ruby. Lucas felt a surge of despair and determination. He knew he couldn't lose her, not after everything they had endured. "We'll fight this," he said, his voice resolute. "Together." Sophia smiled faintly, but tears streamed down her face. "I'm scared, Lucas. It feels like it's inside me now." He held her tightly, vowing silently to protect her at all costs. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was far from over and that the cursed wedding ring had left a mark on both of them, one that would haunt them for the rest of their days. The end.